Alright, so today I'm going over Rain, and Rain is a very interesting character in this game. He is this game's dedicated zoner and setup character, and he is a lot of fun. He's fairly strong, though he is very difficult to get started with. So today I just want to show you what you can do as this guy and show you some mix-ups, how to use his tools. So let's just get right into it. As always, we gotta start with the specials. So the first special I want to go over is actually down back 2. It is called Watergate and it looks like that. It's actually a fairly fast special that you can do. And I'm starting with this because I think it's his least important special. You're not going to use it a lot. But there is a very cool utility behind it that you can use, and it's honestly better to use it that way. But first, let me show you how NetherRealm Studios wants you to use it. What they want you to do is basically you set up these portals, and you can have a max of 2 of them on screen at a time, and you can do it from the air as well. And you teleport to them. So you can do a jump and set them up like that in a way where you make your opponent guess, am I going to go to the oldest one or the one I placed after? So that's the way they want you to use it, and there is actually an amplify version where if you have 2 portals on the screen, you can do a down forward 2 enhance, and it shoots a little water beam that is a mid, and it's very safe on block as always. +3, and even if I'm right next to him, I'll be plus as well. And it looks like that. And on hit, that will launch him. And then you can possibly get a combo afterwards. And you can also do it from the air, like this. So you can do like an empty jump into a Watergate, or empty jump into the Watergate Enhance, which is a little water beam. Now, the reason why it's his least important special is that it is extremely difficult to set it up in a real match, because in a real match, your opponent isn't just gonna let you do it, right? You have to get in there and then start doing cancels into it, and then you're gonna have to set it up off wake up, and then doing all that is very difficult. And these portals aren't here forever. As you can see, they go away after a little bit. So you're spending a lot of time sacrificing damage to set up a network of portals where if you do get it in a position like this, you actually have covered a pretty good angle where your opponent can't walk up on you and they can't jump in on you, because you could do the enhanced version and get a combo off that. But as I said, the problem is that it's very difficult to set it up that way. Though you can go into a combo and like cancel and start setting up portals slowly, but again, they are not here indefinitely, they go away. So that is why it's his least important special, and it's the one you're probably not going to use ever, unless you'd use it like this. So on block, I do like a 1-1-4 or a 2-1-1. So I do a string and I special cancel into a special that hits my opponent. But what I can do instead is actually special cancel into the Watergate and then go right into another string after that, because if my opponent is expecting me to special cancel into a special that hits, or maybe they're just waiting for the next hit of the string, I can instead do a 1-1 into a Watergate, go into another string. Most people won't react to it the first time it happens, but of course as the match goes on and on, people will start to react, and you are open to being jab checked with a down 1 or get hit with a down 2, or your opponent reads it properly and they go straight into a jab string. So there is a risk there, but there's a risk with everything in fighting games, though it is a very good risk, as most people will not actually react to you placing it, and you'll get another turn basically. You can steal people's turns by doing that, which is very good. But otherwise, setting up this portal, a network of portals, is way too difficult to do. Unless you have a combo cameo like Darius, who can hold your opponent for a long time with his special, with his ambush I meant to say, then you could do a combo that sets up 2 portals. Now on to another special, a better special. It would be his back forward 1, which is water beam. And it looks like that. It's a high. It's a pretty average looking projectile, though it does have a very big hitbox. Basically the entire projectile is the hitbox on it, so people will accidentally stand up and get hit by it. But as you can see, it gives you some hit advantage, gives you a knockdown, pushes your opponent back a little bit, but you know, they could easily duck it or they can just jump over it. Now the special thing about this special in particular is that it can be cancelled, as you can see here in the move list, and you can charge it. So a charged water beam, it looks like this. It's still a high, does more damage, 81 frames of startup, so it's very, very slow, but you get to crumple state your opponent, and actually, if it hits an opponent who is airborne, it will bring them back down to the ground and crumple state them, which is pretty cool. And at that distance, we don't really get anything, they're way too far away, but what you can do is that you can set up his back forward 4, which is that low little toilet bowl flush there. But if you're right next to your opponent, let's say you're using Cyrax or Sub-Zero, and you're able to freeze them or net them, you get a guaranteed full charge super kick, leads you into a combo, or you just get a guaranteed combo in general, which is very good. Now, really you'll only get the full charged hit if you have Sub-Zero or Cyrax with you, because Cyrax's up buzzsaw hits your opponent for so long that you can full charge a water beam and then restand them on the ground and crumple state them. And of course Sub-Zero, you do a forward 2-1, use Sub-Zero's freeze, and then you can go ahead into a fully charged water beam. But outside of that, actually getting it to land, very difficult. Most characters that have anti-zoning tools will either have a very fast roll that goes under, or they'll teleport behind you, and so on and so forth. It's very difficult to land it by itself in a real match. Now, the more important part is the cancels. You can either cancel it forwards or backwards by doing a dash input, which is, you know, forward, forward, or back, back. And it looks like that. And you can cancel it at any point. Now, this is very important for Rain because it allows you to almost kind of sort of do a Vicious Vapors cancel of sort that Smoke can do. Obviously not to the degree of Smoke, but it will allow you to steal some turns, and you can definitely put the pressure on your opponent. So if I were to be on block, a good string, well really all of his strings are good to cancel into the water beam cancel, but you can do like a 1-1-4 water beam cancel, another 1-1-4, or a forward 2-1 is better because it's a mid starter, or you know 1-1-4 and let it fly like that. If your opponent starts trying to hit you out of it or check you in any way, you can actually just let it fly instead and hit your opponent. That is if your opponent goes for like a 1-1 or a jab string. If they go for a down 1 or a down 3 or any crouch move, they'll go right under it because it is a high. But you can definitely throw it in there to steal turns and just keep pressuring your opponent. Though, much like the Watergate, you are subject to getting checked. Now, another interesting sort of thing is the enhanced version. So the enhanced version is actually a very good get off me tool. If your opponent is, you know, right up next to you and you want to zone them, you land a hit, you go right into that, it pushes them full screen, you have hit advantage of 38 frames, so you can go ahead and set up a back forward 4, or you can go right into zoning. But that is the uses for his water beam. Really, you do not want to zone with water beam. It's too generic of a projectile for it to be something that you'd want to zone with and safely zone with. They'll just crouch under it or they'll jump over it. And if they have a teleport or a low profiling special that goes very far, well, you're gonna get hit right out of it. So, best use for it, on block, start mixing your opponents a bit. Like that. And then, of course, you can cancel it backwards so that, you know, if your opponent does go for a check, you can basically backdash and get another turn going. Or, you know, you're back at mid-screen and you're basically reset the neutral. So, yeah, it's a very, very good thing to do. And of course, if you have a cameo with you that can ambush, you can go ahead and do it pretty safely. Though at that point, you don't need to do the cancel. You just get a turn because your cameo ambush will get you that turn. Alright, so the next special is his down back 1, and it is called upflow, and it looks like that. It's a high projectile, and it's obviously meant to be like an anti-air projectile. Maybe you do a water beam, your opponent jumps, you cancel it, and somehow you land that, though it's very unlikely. So really, again, you're not going to zone with it, just like how you won't zone with water beam because it's too generic of a projectile to zone with. But this is actually a very important special for Rain in another regard, in that the enhanced version is a launcher. So what that means is that for the most part, this is what you'll special cancel into to get a combo. Now, Rain does have a natural launcher, but it is very slow, and if your opponent up blocks things, if you get up blocked on his natural launcher, you eat a full combo. So this is next best thing, and you'll get a 2-4-3 air string out of it, in which you can continue the combo on the ground, or if you have a cameo, it's actually, you can actually go ahead and get some more out of it. Like that. But yeah, upflow is important, not in that it's a good zoning keep away tool. I mean, it sort of is, kind of, if you can catch your opponent in the air, but really it's the enhanced version that makes it so good, because you can go ahead and turn any hit into a full combo, like so. But yeah, that is it for upflow. Obviously, very unsafe on block, both versions, and both versions are high, so people can duck it. So the next special is actually his down back 3, and that is called Geyser, and it looks like that. It's 2 hits, both hits are mid, so your opponents cannot duck it, you know, because so far all of the specials have been highs or they don't hit people, but this one is 2 mids. And if you have a cameo that can ambush, you'll get a nice little combo out of it if you either set up earlier or you know, have Sub-Zero or Cyrax to get stuff from it. But yeah, you can use it as a combo starter, or better yet, you use it in block strings. Sure, it's minus 16, so obviously it's not your turn afterwards, but the most your opponent can get from this distance is a down 4. But otherwise, you're perfectly safe at that distance. Your opponent can't, you know, get a full combo punish on you. The best they will get is a down 4 or, you know, just a far-reaching crouch normal. Anything past that is far too slow because you are so spaced out that you've already started blocking by the time they try to hit you with anything. And of course, you know, you just cancel it. Any string. Now, that in tandem with doing a water beam cancel or a water gate special cancel, which I just messed up, like that in tandem does turn Rain into somewhat of a mix-up character, and a very decent one at that. Obviously, he's not Smoke, but he is still a very decent one, because those 2 mids, people will get scared of that. All they'll get is, you know, like a down 4 afterwards. People will get scared to get hit by it, especially that if they do, as you can see, it does put them very far away, which means you're ready to zone, and you have a lot of hit advantage, so much so that you can go ahead and set up a back forward 4 afterwards perfectly safely, because that is a very, very long startup special. But yeah, down back 3 is very important for that reason on block and on hit, but also the meter burn version is Rain's armored move. And as you can see, that's his armored move. So you do it on get up, you do it in the gaps of strings, so it's important for a lot of reasons. And of course, his armored move is basically a combo starter depending on your cameo, which is always a pretty good deal. Oh, and one more thing about down back 3 is that there are 2 versions. There is regular, which is close, and there is far, and both are armored moves. So if your opponent is a bit spaced out, you can go ahead and do the far version. And you should know that sometimes, depending on your spacing, down back 3 won't hit your opponent, even if you get it on a combo like that. Sometimes it'll whiff completely, which is why when you do a combo, end it with the far version, because the far version is guaranteed and it's much more consistent. It's much more consistent. So yeah, far version, if you do it in a string to end combos, it also pushes your opponent a little bit further, but the trade-off is that you get no hit advantage afterwards. So you're basically reset, well, you're not reset to neutral because that would be mid-screen, but you don't get a guaranteed back forward 4 setup on your opponent, because now they can just, they can start moving, they can start anti-zoning, they can start doing a whole bunch of stuff. So that's the differences between regular and far. One gives you hit advantage and is less consistent. The other doesn't give you hit advantage, but it's more consistent. So do with that information what you will. So the next special is Water Shield, and it is forward, down, back, 4. And it looks like that. It's a stationary shield that's active for 90 frames, and what it does is that it'll eat your opponent's projectiles. Like that. So obviously the way NetherRealm wants you to play Rain, they want you to set up a network of portals, and then you set up your trap, and then you go ahead and you water shield and you start zoning your opponent. But using Rain that way is extremely hard, extremely difficult, and using water shield that way is not really worth it in my opinion. The best way that I've used water shield is to simply do it on reaction whenever I see my opponent throw out a projectile. Obviously, different characters have much longer startups on their projectiles, but that has been the way I've done it. Every time I see my opponent start a projectile, I'll just go ahead and water shield, and I'll use it that way. Now the other way you can use water shield is the fact that it's a water shield. It's just a big ass bubble on the screen, so it can obscure a lot of the things that Rain is doing. But obviously, not just Rain. If your opponent goes ahead and somehow gets in the bubble, well, now you're guessing on what they're pressing. So it's very difficult to see what Rain is doing in the bubble. So that is another utility around it. Now the enhanced version is not really worth it in my opinion. So the enhanced version, it makes the water shield active for a little longer, and it's attached to Rain. But really, you don't need to walk around with the water shield. If you're gonna go and get up right next to your opponent, the chances of them shooting a random projectile out while you're approaching is not gonna happen. Like, that's so low. So don't spend meter for water shield. Just do it on reaction whenever your opponent does shoot out a projectile, and then continue to approach or do whatever you were doing. Now, another thing you need to know about this special, both the regular and enhanced version, this shield only eats 2 projectiles. After 2 projectiles, it goes away. So the next special is this back forward 4, and it's called Ancient Trap. It is a low, and there's 3 versions. There is close, there is mid-screen, and there is far. Now, on block, it is +2 no matter where your opponent is on screen. They could be right next to you and you're +2. If they try to jab you afterwards or go straight into the string, you can jab check them and take another turn. You'll beat them every time. Or you could do a forward 2, which is a very quick mid, and if they go for a string, you'll beat them every time. So it is a very good special in basically every way, because if they don't block it, well, they get launched. And you get to go right into a little combo like that. So there's actually a lot of ways you can set it up. And depending on your cameo, it'll either be easier or harder to, it'll be more ingrained in your game plan, or you won't really use it a lot. Now, the cool thing about it is that you can make it so that your opponents will lose no matter what in this trade. So, as you can see, they have to block low on that. And it's a natural launcher. Or, it's a special launcher. And Rain actually has a natural launching string, and that is his forward 3-2. And both hits are overhead. So if you do something like, let's say you do 2-1-1 cancel, and we'll have him delay get up. 2-1-1 cancel into Ancient Trap. In that situation, if I do forward 3-2, he loses every time. Because either I hit him with the forward 3-2 or I hit him with the back forward 4. And either way, I'm getting a combo, so it's good for me. So that is a very strong way to do it. Obviously, you can use a cameo to better guarantee it. Like Sector, for example, if I set up his missile and then I cancel, it's like there's nothing my opponent can really do about that. So it is a very, very strong special, and of course it is a kind of keep out tool, so your opponents have to be careful of it. Most people are going to jump over it, so then you do a down back 1, hit them out of the air. Now, something to know about this special is that it does not hit airborne opponents. So if you're using Cyrax or Darius and you net someone or you hit them with Darius's kick, the back forward 4 will not hit your opponent. It will not suck them in, and you'll be able to, go ahead and do that and get a cool combo afterwards. It doesn't work like that. However, if you use Sub-Zero and you do forward 2-1 and you use Sub-Zero's freeze, then it will actually hit your opponent because they are counted as standing, because they're frozen on the ground. They're not airborne. Cyrax's net makes them airborne, and Darius makes them airborne with his kick. So that's what you need to know about this special. Otherwise, it is a very strong special, and with the right, ambush cameos and such, you can basically guarantee it every time and continue to take turns with it. So it's very good for taking turns, pressuring, and putting people in a lose-lose, low overhead situation. And now for Rain's last special move, it is down, down, up, and it is called Rain God. And you can do it close, far, or you can delay it and you can cancel it as well, and it looks like this. It is a mid projectile that covers a nice steep angle, and it knocks people out of the air, it bounces them. Depending on your cameo, you can get a full combo just from this projectile. So this is Rain's main zoning tool. You are not going to be zoning with back forward 1. It's, as I was saying earlier, it's too generic of a projectile for you to want to use it as Rain, because most people will go under it or they'll jump it. They cannot go under Rain God, and they cannot jump Rain God if they are within a jump in distance like that. And it's mid, so they have to block it. And on block, it is safe. It's -4 there, and obviously if they're right next to me, it's a little bit different by them coming out. -8, which means it's definitely not your turn anymore, but it's not so minus that, someone can just do their long startup launcher afterwards. Especially if I call in a cameo beforehand and I do it, and for some reason it's not doing it, which is weird. But it is a very, very strong projectile, and this is basically what you're gonna be doing if you play Rain purely as a zoner. But whenever you knock your opponent full screen, or just get them really far away, you will just go ahead and start zoning with Rain God. Very, very good projectile. And of course, Rain is flying a bit, so some things won't hit him. Though those things you'll have to figure out because, again, this game can be random sometimes. And you can delay it for a very long time. And, of course, you can cancel it in that way. Of course, it's also special cancelable. So you can go into a Rain God during a string and do cool combos that way. But really, the main thing with Rain God is that this is what you zone with. There's really no other use outside of that. Definitely do not do it like right next to your opponent. Now we're going to move on to his strings. So as Rain, you are going to be using all of his strings. All of his strings have a purpose. All of his strings are very good. Though, this is going to be a weird thing to say. His normals, so not the full strings, just the normals. Stand 2 by itself, forward 2 by itself, stand 1, stand 3. His normals have no forward momentum, and they actually have pretty poor reach. Because Rain is a very stand upright character. Even his sweep he's standing. So Rain does have that kind of working against him, but once you see the full strings, you'll see why they made it like that. So the first string I want to show you is his 112 and 114. These are both his jab strings, and they are both very good. 112 is high, mid, high. Knocks your opponent super far back, gives you hit advantage of 45. You can go ahead and set up an ancient trap afterwards, or you can go right into Rain God as soon as your opponent wakes up, hit them with a big ass ball of lightning. Now on block, it is very safe. Well, not very safe, but it's 0 on block and it resets the neutral. It puts you both back at mid screen. Now the last hit is a high, so people can go ahead and duck it and they'll get a full punish on you. Now that's why they gave him 114. 114 is high, mid, low, and it's also safe on block. It's -5. Though it has a longer startup. It is 18 frames on that last hit. But 114 is a special cancelable string every hit. So you can special cancel into Geyser, and people are spaced out in such a way where, again, they really only get like a down 4 or down 3 afterwards, but it's not your turn basically. But 114 is a very, very good string. 114 and 112 are actually both very staggerable. And by that, I mean the last hits, you can do it way later than, instead of doing 112 like that, instantly you could do 112 like that. Or you could do 114. So that way people are actually guessing on the timing as well. Is he just doing 1-1 and he's going to do a throw? You're only -1 from the second hit. So you could go ahead and do a 1-1 into a forward 2, 1-1 into a cancel like that, or 1-1 throw, as I said. So there's a lot of utility around these two strings. Both are very good, and both have their places in your gameplay. And 114 on hit gives you a little combo like that, pushes them super far away, and again, depending on your cameo, you can get a combo afterwards. Yeah, 112, 114, very important strings for Rain, very easy to stagger, and you can mix people with just doing 1-1 throw, or 1-1-2, do it very delayed. But yeah, very good jab strings. Alright, next string is 2-1-1-2. This is a mega safe string, and on block, it looks like this. So actually, the startup of the string, it's 2 highs, right? It's 2 highs when you're right next to your opponent. But if you space it out, only 1 high will hit. So 1 high hits closer and 1 high hits further. And that's just something I want you to know about, you know, just stand 2 in general. Is that sometimes the first hit will whiff, but the second hit will land. But this is what 2-1-1-2 looks like. It's a high, high, mid, overhead, mid. And it's -5, it's super safe, though there is a lot of gaps in that string, so people can armor through it. But this string, much like 1-1-2 and 1-1-4, has a very staggerable ender. Like that. So you basically have up until Rain goes and turns his little staff upright to press 2 at the end, which is a lot of time to delay it. And on hit, it pushes your opponent super far back. Like that. And you get 40 frames of hit advantage. Go ahead and set stuff up afterwards. Or you could just do a 2-on-1 and get into a combo like that. But 2-1-1 without the ender is also very good. It's -7, so you're safe, and your opponent is spaced out pretty far away to where they'll only get like a down 4 afterwards. Or you could do a 2-1-1 into a down back 3, and now they're spaced out even further. And of course, every hit is special cancelable, so you can go ahead and just do 2 and let only the first hit of stand 2 hit when you special cancel. And yeah, it's just a very, very good string. And that overhead is really nasty if you have a cameo like Kung Lao, where you can set up his low hat, and again, you're putting them in a situation where they can't really win. So the next string is Rain's forward 2-1-3, and it's a mid-low high. And again, very staggerable ender. That is a common theme with Rain strings. The enders are very easy to stagger and change the timing of. Now, the last part is very safe on block, as you can see there, and this is what it looks like on hit. Even though I whipped the first thing. But 50 frames of hit advantage. You go ahead and set up whatever you want afterwards. And do whatever you want afterwards. But the last hit is high, which means people that know that, you know, they duck that last hit and you eat a full combo. Which is why more often than not, you'll just do forward 2-1 by itself. The second hit is only -7 on block, which means, you know, you're safe. And sometimes people are expecting that delay last hit, so they'll just keep blocking. But yeah, you can just do forward 2-1, cancel into, you know, water beam cancel. Or you can do a forward 2-1 into a water gate special cancel like that. And yeah, it's another very good string. And you can put people in situations where they lose. If you have an overhead cameo, like Scorpion for example, his overhead gives you a full combo. Forward 2 by itself, now it's a low overhead mix, because it's going to be a low afterwards, or it's going to be a Scorpion overhead. So yeah, Scorpion is actually a pretty good cameo for Rain. Yeah, forward 2-1-3 is a very good string. Forward 2-1 is very good by itself, though there's a lot of gaps in it, which means people can armor through. Yeah, forward 2-1, it'll probably be the main string where you do water beam cancels on, because the first hit is mid, and it's a very good mid at that, though it's very, very vertical, the hitbox. You have to be right up next to your opponent to actually hit them with forward 2. Otherwise, that first hit whiffs, and it whiffs very easily, so you gotta be right up next to them. But that's one of the only bad things about it, other than the last hit being high. But then again, you are mixing people with a whole plethora of stuff. And it's got fairly decent chip damage as well. Yeah, forward 2-1, another very, very, very good string for Rain. And lastly, Rain's final string is forward 3-2. And it looks like that. Very long startup on the first hit, and it's safe on block, 2 overheads, and on hit, it is a natural launcher. So you'll get a little combo out of it like that. Now, this string is very good and very risky at the same time. Obviously earlier when I was showing the trap setup, where you can put people in unwinnable situations with it, it's very good in that regard. If you have Kung Lao with you, you could do a forward 3 into Kung Lao's low hat, and now it's a low overhead mix. It is a very good string. But to counter that a little bit, people can go ahead and up block the first hit. And if they do so, they get a full combo punish on you. As you can see there, I'm pressing forward 3-2. The second hit doesn't come out. And if I had Sub-Zero, you know, set up properly, because the training mode in this game, setting up, you know, the dummies like that, it doesn't really work too well. But he gets a full combo on me, and it is very, very risky. Which is why cameos like Sector and Cyrax, any ambush cameos are very good. Because if someone does try to take that, they like to up block a lot of things. They know how to up block this. Then you set it up and, well, it's still your turn afterwards. So it is a very good string. You can make it safe in a ton of ways, and of course you can cancel the first hit into whatever you want. You can do a forward 3 into a back forward 4 if you want to. I mean, some people don't react to that stuff. So yeah, there's just a lot of good about Rain's strings, and you can really just put on the pressure with this one. Both hits are very safe as well. But yeah, that is it for his strings. Now I actually want to talk about his normals. So Rain has some pretty interesting, unique normals compared to a lot of the other characters in this roster. So Rain, in a way, he kind of has 2 sweeps. So obviously back 4 is a sweep. And earlier I mentioned how Rain is a very upright, stand up straight while he does strings character. Well, his sweep does not low profile. His sweep, actually, he is standing when he does it. So if Sub-Zero were to throw out a high projectile, I'll get hit by it because Rain doesn't have any low profiling strings or normals that aren't crouch normals. So his sweep has a lot of reach, very safe on block, but he is upright, which means he does not go under highs. That's not, you know, just for projectiles. If someone does a 1-1 string, well, Rain gets hit by it. Now, his back 2 is also a low. It's very unsafe. It's -10, -13 if you're close to your opponent. It has pretty decent range, and Rain actually slides backwards when he does it. So this is what I meant by Rain kind of has 2 sweeps. He has both of those, and obviously his regular sweep on hit knocks your opponent down, and you know, you get hit advantage. Now his back 2, however, knocks his opponent upwards, knocks your opponent forwards, and it's special cancelable. So you can do that if you had a cameo set up, or you got a cameo, you can possibly go into a combo, or you can cancel into his down back 1 enhance and get a full combo that way. So yeah, his back 2 will give you a nice little combo if you special cancel it into that. And of course you can special cancel it on block just to keep your opponent guessing a little bit. So there's a lot of ways you can actually just make the string safe. Well, not string, the normal safe. And if you do land it, you go into enhanced down back 1 to get a pretty chunky combo on your opponent. So his sweep and his back 2 are both very, very good buttons in their own right. And one will give you a hard knockdown, the other will launch your opponent so you can get a nice little combo. So the next normal I wanted to talk about is his stand 4. His stand 4 is Rain's super kick. And it's a high, safe on block. If you hit your opponent with it, it side switches them. And this is a pretty unique normal in that it can also be charged. It can be charged and it can be cancelled. So if you fully charge it, Rain actually gets a combo out of it, which is pretty good. You know, you get some damage. And you can also do it mid-combo depending on your cameo. And if you get a fully charged water beam somehow, it's pretty guaranteed that you'll get a full charge super kick if you're right next to your opponent. And you can get some chunky damage that way. Yeah, super kick is now a normal for Rain, and it's pretty cool that it's like that. Though it is a high, and it's got a very long startup if you want that full charge, which is why the cameo you have with you will make you dependent as to whether or not you'll get anything from super kick that's meaningful, or you'll be able to use super kick at all, a full charge version. But yeah, super kick, it's pretty cool that he even has it like that. Now the next normal is going to be his stand 3, and it's a high, and he shoots out a little water ball like that. So yeah, just cancel. If you land it, knocks your opponent up, go into a down back 1 enhance. It is a very good anti-air. It is very vertical. It's as vertical as his forward 2. So if someone does a jump in on you, you just do a stand 3. Stand 3 into down back 1, get a combo going, get some damage, all that. So the last few things when it comes to his normals I want to talk about are his crouch normals. Namely, his down 3 and his down 4. His down 3 is extremely good. 9 frame low that's got a lot of reach to it. You can go very far away and hit someone with it. His down 4, however, it's 10 frames and it sucks. You gotta be right up next to your opponent. With crouch 3, I can just loop it. I can keep backing up and basically just keep hitting my opponent at various distances. If I hit my opponent once with a down 4, I can't even hit them. If I scoot forward closer and closer and closer, I have to get so close to hit my opponent with a down 4. Which is why it's a terrible idea to ever use his down 4 in any situation. It's just not a good button. Sure, it gives you more hit advantage, but most strings on block will put you at this distance. At this distance, down 4 whiffs, and it's got a lot of recovery, so your opponent gets to take another turn on you, which is why down 3 is much better. But that is it for Rain's normals, specials, strings. Now, I want to show you his air strings. One in particular. It's his Jump 3-2. And it looks like that. It's actually a very good air string because if you can do it against a grounded opponent like that. So if you do a jump in and it lands, well, if they're in the corner, you get a nice little combo from it, which is very good for Rain. So yeah, Jump 3-2. It's a very good string. Obviously, be careful of people up blocking it, but yeah. If you're going for a jump in, always Jump 3-2. You'll get a lot of hit advantage, and it'll be your turn afterwards, even if they're not in the corner. you can go ahead and do a whole bunch of stuff. If they're in the corner, you get a combo. So you can also do jump 3-2 in combos to extend. But yeah, that is it for this video. Rain is a very fun, fairly strong character. And I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one.